Okay, great. Welcome to our second session on text mining. Many of you asked, I decided to simplify the example I had last time, and essentially have used a single folder with all the text. Also, I created a couple of R scripts and I uploaded them to GitHub. Since I uploaded them, I made a couple of changes, a couple of modifications, which I'm going to upload after the session to GitHub, and you are free to use that code. So the first, I'm going to go quick through both examples, and then if we have time, I'm going to also cover anomaly. So as we were discussing it last time, first thing we need to load libraries. And the easiest way to do it when you're loading multiple libraries is to concatenate them into a variable. So loading TM, which are essentially text mining and data mining libraries, and Snowball LLC. Library is essentially contains word stemming features, and I believe Brad asked last time word stemming, and word stemming is a feature supported by indexing and searching systems. The main index is improving a recall by automating handling of the word by reducing the word to the word roots, so in other to their stems, and time of indexing or searching. It's recall and increased without compromising on the precision of the document fetch. So stemming essentially is removing the attached suffixes and prefixes from index terms before the assignment of the to the index. So you can just run line by line, and if you have any questions in the process, let me know. Loading the libraries. Okay. Strings as a factor option to make sure that R is not convert our numbers to categorical variables.
Okay, a couple of questions about that. Mm-hmm. Some of the other examples in the meetings had that be arguments within another command as opposed to just a standalone options command. Does that make any difference?
No, because you can pass that as an argument as well. But in this specific case, I just outside.
And if you leave that out, one thing I'm not quite grasping is what happens if you don't set this string factors as factors equals true?
Sometimes R interprets the data, converts the data into categorical variables, and we don't want that to happen. That's why we explicitly declare, so options wouldn't be doing that.
In the context of text mining and counting words, what does it mean for categorical variables? I wouldn't think of categorical variables coming into play here at all.
It's more of and you're right, because that's why we're declaring this option. But essentially, it's just a technicality that it's just like importing the libraries before you can work with them. It's just sort of certain options and settings that we need that in order to avoid errors later down the road. But by itself, it's not it's to any of the text mining features. Just the presetting before the start of the work.
Okay.
So next thing we're doing, we're creating a corpus and assigning it to the. We need to declare the and set the working directory, and I commented here because everyone's working directory is different. Quickly, to recap, there are two ways of seeing the working directory. You can do it manually. You can do it set working directory command, and you can just choose it. Or you can do it manually with the set w command and pass your directory as a string to it. Okay, my folder, and that's going to be the only folder that we're going to use, is comma. I get here. Now, if I'm going to check it, I'm going to have it as my directory. So the getwd command will return you that path. You can use it as an argument in the next command. And the next command is essentially we're creating the corpus for the variable docs, and we're using all text in the Obama folder as a source for the corpus.
I was kind of surprised to see that, because all of the other readings were referring to like the read CSV command or a file.path. This is the first time I'd seen an example of just saying the whole darn working directory, just pull in everything there. Is there, and I'm wondering if that was part of the reason I was running into some errors before. I just don't think I was pulling in the text files correctly. Are there different commands that are more appropriate for different scenarios?
In R, essentially, there are many ways to do the similar thing. So if you're reading a CSV file, you could do that as well. And in this case, though, we have multiple texts. So if we look at the content folder, we have multiple files, and the source command that's exactly what it does. It creates a directory source. So it lets us corpus that all files that you're going to combine are going to be in that directory. But if that would be a single file, yeah, you're right. You could just use CSV without according to their source. Essentially, this could be this could be a good example in the case where you have multiple files in a folder.
Exactly, would you use a vector source, a directory source, or source?
Let's see, vector source. Yeah, it's just what it would. A source interprets each element of the vector X as a document, and vector, all the generic, it's a generic object that will let you to put kinds of objects. Put similar kinds of objects in one array. What kind of data you're working with? You would vector source. But to be honest, I haven't worked with this command before.
Okay.
But it does. It looks just like tier source as well. This is another way to, because you look at the example down here. Actually, what this command is doing, it concatenates two strings. It assigns it to the variable. We try it. Let's call it docs1. Yeah, just what we just did was we created a corpus from multiple separate documents. And what vector source in this example, it created one document out of two different objects, two different strings. Well, different objects, they're the same type, but two different strings. Does that answer your question?
Not completely, because the deltadna.com reading that we had was talking about pulling in CSV files, but then they were recommending the vector source. So I was getting really confused as to, does it matter which one of these we use, and when to use one versus the other? Do you have any perspective on that one?
Well, in general, you would use a CSV file when your data has a structure, basically. You have several variables in the data. But here you don't have a structure. It could be just text. It into columns in a logical way.
Okay, so if it's something in the form of in columns, that's when vector source might be appropriate, where it's just free-form text directory source. Okay, thank you.
There's no structure. That's what it is. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Great. So we created a corpus. The next thing would be, we'll go through regular cleaning functions, like we did today. And yesterday we had to create a separate function because we were doing it on an iterative basis. Here the only time here we're creating a function, but just because we need to create a custom function to recognize the characters, and you don't have to do this. This is just in case you know that your text, let's say you're analyzing a huge email database and you want to remove all the @ signs, or if it's a database of web addresses, you want to remove /forward, /backward, etc. So you're in content transformer function that, and again, this is just an example of how you remove that, but you don't have to use it every time you're cleaning the text. So content transformer function will essentially pattern to give an idea of a pattern to space, and the function is going to be called toSpace, and you're using tmmap wrapper to then to and passing 3 arguments. The first one will be source, of your text, which are in the variable docs. The second, the name of the function, space. The third one is the character that you want to remove. So if we are going to run through this real quick, the special characters have been removed, so docs file does not contain any special characters at this point. We'll continue cleaning up with the standard content transformer cleanup functions. And what we do right now really is cleaning the text. We're not adding anything to it yet. So.
Did I hear correctly that it's the newer versions of RStudio that require you to put in or newer versions of R that you have to put in those extra words, content_transformer? Some of the examples we were looking at just didn't even have that listed in the cleanup functions.
And it's in the new version of R. It's the new version of TM library. If I'm not mistaken, it's 0.4. Or anyway, it's the most recent version that requires you to have that before you use those words.
Okay, thanks.
So the next thing, we're going to build a matrix, and like I mentioned last time, there are a couple of keywords. One is document term matrix, and one is term document matrix. And they both refer to the same help file, and essentially they're doing the same thing. They're building matrices. The only difference is that, and I'll show that to you later, the difference is that the variables within, declare document term matrix, it will variable that contains documents will come. Terms will come before the documents, and if you use vice versa, it will contain documents before the terms. But it's doing the same thing, and I'll show you just how both variables will differ depending on which command you will use. So at this point, we will use both. So I created two commands. The one will have document term matrix will be called DTM, and the one with term document matrix will be called TM, and that's just so we could, identify them easier. I'm going to do, essentially, we will return frequencies and essentially count the words. We're creating the, first we're going to do that for term document matrix, variable which we created with the term document matrix. And we will call the output frequency for TDM. Call sums, let me off here. Calls essentially form row and column sums and mean the arrays. The ASICS option, argument, it creates a matrix from the given set of values, and it turns the argument into a matrix and tests its argument as a matrix. So we're passing TM that we create to it, and we assign the result to the freq_dm variable. Okay. Or command returns a permutation which rearranges its first argument into ascending or descending order. So we're going to pass the we created in the step to it and assign it to the or DTD variable. So next thing would be to actually look at the result. We'll be look at the result, and we will just look at the tail command. Tail and head are two commands that return first or last parts of a vector, matrix, table, data frame, or a function. So. Okay, this is an example of the freq_dm variable. In this case, if we will look at the contents of the folder, it lists names of the files. So you can see the names of the files and then the words within that text. So the Boston Marathon explosion statement had 338 words in it. So we're going to do the same thing, but for and you'll see the difference. We will use the document term matrix DTM variable that we created earlier instead, and be more. Hopefully, that will be more easier to understand the difference between these two commands. So. On this, and we're doing the same thing with this set of commands. We do the same thing as we did for TDM. So the frequency of the counted words. All right, and you can see also that it stemmed some of the words. For example, this could be word security, but it eliminates suffixes and only the roots. So if you look at the content of this variables, in the TDM example, we see that terms come first before the docs. DTM, docs come before the terms. So it will make a difference if you're using head and tails to look at the those. It's the only difference between using term document matrix and document term matrix.
Sorry, I lost that. When you say terms before documents before terms, is it just how the results are output, or you're actually getting some different results? I'm not following.
It's just the output of the results. So if you look at both results, the variables are exactly the same, contain exactly the same thing. So this is has 1,892 observations, and it's the same here, same values, etc., etc. It's just the math go in the variable.
Gotcha.
Okay. Anybody got any questions?
The original example that you posted of the simplified process, I was surprised not to see any TDM or DTM commands at all, but it still worked to produce a word cloud. So it's not necessary to create these matrices to generate a word cloud?
I use, I believe, TDM command in there. Yeah, I use term document matrix command. It's to create the matrix, essentially. So if we
the GitHub link you posted did not have that command, and so I tried that, and it worked. I was able to create a word cloud, even though it had not gone through that step.
Right, and and I apologize. My GitHub account. I did some changes after I posted it, and I completely forgot to push it.
No, it's not criticism, but I'm just raising the issue then that you don't have to have that matrix in place for it to generate a word cloud. I thought that it would require that for doing the word counts that would then feed the word cloud.
Just create matrix, so it would be more easier for us to work with it. But like for the cloud, you don't really need it.
Oh, gotcha.
So the second example is a word cloud. In many ways, majority of this script is actually very similar to the one that we just had. So run through it real quick. So we cleaned our data, and the last step would be essentially creating a word cloud with the word cloud command. And this is exactly what it does. It plots a word cloud. It has some arguments. ggplot would create a regular graph or chart. This would create a word cloud. So if we're all right, word cloud of. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, some of these special characters, so I guess we still have some of them in. But essentially, it will create a word cloud of the words, and it will differentiate them based on the frequency, on the count, etc., etc. R is very good graphics capabilities, and among other open source tools, including Python. So this is one of the advantages that R has. And it looks like I generated some warnings. Although you would want to look at those warnings, I don't think I have too much time to look into each one of them. Taking some of the values, apparently, he's taking some of the values and just telling me that those are not graphical parameters. It looks more like some sort of hidden, maybe, I'm not sure. But essentially, you know, it still build as a cloud, and you know, decide to go in and debug if this is something that you know, stop work and you cannot continue. You would just type in warnings and look at what the issues are and then fix them. Questions at this point?
I think that there are some rules for like what codes to put in for colors and the like. I didn't do that in the help function. Where can we find more about just how to tailor the visual there in the word cloud?
The help would contain pretty exhaustive information about it. Oops. Have argument for a color. True colors of sign and words in order. It looks like it's a bit limited. As far as Brad, are you asking can you assign a certain color to a certain word?
But when I look at your command, you use references to like dark 2. I have no idea what that is. Where can we find information about what those are, what the acceptable values are for each of those arguments? Look, I don't want to slow down the help session.
It will be something that's definitely posted somewhere on the web. I mean, there definitely should be some decoding tables. It's just a matter of finding them. Yeah, somebody posted somewhere in the blog, and this is actually a great question because useful. But I'm going to look for it, and I'm going to post it in the discussion area. The answer from top of my head, but I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to post it in the discussion area. Anybody else got any questions? Okay. So the next thing we're going to discuss today is anomaly detection. And in defining the in data mining, anomaly detection or outlier detection, the identification of you know, observations, events which do not conform to an expected pattern as other observations in the data set. Typically, those anomalies will translate into some kind of problem. Like in fraud detection, it could be a bank fraud. or it could be an error in the text, a medical problem, or in most recent trend in analytics is actually cybersecurity, and detection could mean the network intrusion. Some of the well, the cluster analysis based outlier detection is one of the popular technique. All right, to start the anomaly detection, we will need to install DevTools. The commands that I'm going to go through are to see environment, set up the in all required packages for the procedure to go through. They developed the package specifically for anomaly detection. It's located in the Twitter's GitHub. So something, because R is open source, again, anybody can develop a patch or a library and upload it, and Twitter is not an exception. So in this case, we just have to type it in as I have it here. And load from Twitter's anomaly detection folder. So the is called anomaly detection TS. Let's see. Let's the working directory. So next, we gonna get the access to the data that I have. I'm gonna post it on my GitHub as well, but I have data here that that's R format, and it's optimized for this. It's an interesting case that demonstrates the anomaly detection. So we're gonna call it here. Linux, CNE.
So your working directory, what happens if you try dir command? Does it recognize it? The extension.
That's an R extension. It's supposed to take.
It's read, right, or something like that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Oh, you could try something like this. There is in the menu file something import. In the menu, which one? Maybe open. Maybe under the data. In the menu, there is an option to import data in a file panel, but I've seen it. Good.
Okay, that's it. So let's try.
Remember which one is it? Maybe it's under the tools. I'll have to look it up. But in somewhere you can do the just set. Yep. From file, right?
Yeah, but I will because it's an R. Yeah, it has R is very cooperative when you're working on the when you're QAing your case, but then right in the middle of the patient it doesn't. But anyway, so I apologize again. I mean,
something RD.
it looks like a string. It should be. I assigned it because. Well, let's see, maybe this. Yeah, it's a string.
Okay.
Apologize. It looks we're having some technical issue with anomaly detection, so I'm gonna try to resolve this situation and present it at a later time. Anybody got any questions on text mining at this point? Essentially, the thing about text mining you need to remember is to first thing you do, you import the libraries and you include the libraries that I indicated earlier. You create term document matrix if you want to make it more useful for analysis, and essentially you're all set to do further analysis that you want.
I'll ask another question here, because earlier I kept running to the same error message over and over again. No applicable method for meta applied to an object of class character. Is that seen before? Do you know what that can reference to? About the, I had the impression that it was adding in some argument somewhere about the metadata, or it was a character format rather than some other format.
It does. You know, one of the errors are actually, you know, the messages that you're getting there, referring to the internal R functions that happen without you actually knowing that they're happening, and then when they don't work, like if they're getting the wrong, then they generate that error and they show it to you. But do you remember at what point it was in one of the files, or?
Well, I had like in one of your tries, I'd gone through create corpus, clean up all the words, and it was when I had gotten to the stage of trying to apply the stem completion command that
Did you import the Snowball LLC library before then?
But I think I did get a message saying that there was that it was needed, and it was at that time that I installed that library.
Okay. And you were still getting that error?
Yes.
Okay. The easiest, the best way actually would be trying to look it up in the community. And the way easiest way to search for the right answer would be hitting R at the beginning, because for some reason, I get more relevant answers. So can you, Brad, can you repeat the name of the content of that error?
No applicable method for meditation marks.
So there's already some suggested. Look, I have clicked on this before, so. Okay, so this guy was trying to generate the Enron email database. Well, not the database in this case, just an email. And that error, and the answers that generated most of the votes says exactly, content transformer wrapper was missing. So it's trying to let's see, without the content wrapper. That error in that case. So in your case, that could have been the same.
Okay.
But again, the best way is to, if you're getting an error, there's a huge possibility that somebody already had it, and there's an answer somewhere on the web. It's just a matter of properly looking for help. If this answer wouldn't work, then I would search through the rest of them, and one will definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Excellent. Yeah, and there's one more thing. Finding help on the web. I mean, it's amazingly useful to Google for your question, because it's definitely answered somewhere. R has one of the biggest communities, analytical communities among all other tools. I think the second may be Excel, but because so many people in the world use Excel. But other than that, and the number of libraries it has definitely solve a lot of problems. Ours has been built by statisticians for statisticians, so it has the most extensive set of libraries than any other tool. Python coming closer to it, but R is definitely the leader in that. Try looking up your question, because the answer might be right there.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for staying with our second session, and we'll see you next week. Do you know to turn it off?